This is the Digital Keep. Welcome to the Digital Keep, a DataVakt Podcast, a show about people, cybersecurity, and networks. A show for people trying to build a legacy. This is our pilot episode, so let's get the awkward part out of the way. My name is Guy. And to answer the next most common question, yes, that is my real name given at birth. I'm a Gen X Navy vet who spent the last couple of decades building and defending wireless systems, attractions, and critical infrastructure for places like Disney, Universal, the Defense Information Systems Agency, better known as DISA, and more. I've worked on everything from 10 gig network cutovers in Germany to wireless mesh systems and Star Wars attractions to being a part of the park-wide systems team that built an entire theme park's communication infrastructure and backbone from scratch as the manager of the wireless systems team. If that sounds impressive, just wait. I've also tripped over a Cat5 cable in front of a senior director, accidentally bricked a PLC by fat-fingering the upload, jumped out of my skin when a dinosaur roared behind me in a Cretaceous jungle, fixed a ride network with a very menacing Kylo Ren standing over me, and watched as Toothless flew riderless over my head, inspiring me to keep going while troubleshooting wireless issues, because RF is a tricky beast. And if you're not into tech, RF stands for radio frequency. It's the invisible medium that carries data through the air, like magic, but physics. So, as you can probably tell, this will be a well-balanced story of success and failure, triumph and tragedy. But as Luke Cage's Pop told him, never backward, always forward, always. You may be wondering why this podcast exists, or why did some guy make it happen? Is this a tech podcast? Kind of. Is it a leadership podcast? Yeah, but only in the way that old war stories are secretly about regret and growth. The honest truth is, this show is about the stuff that connects people across generations, systems, and silos. It's about mentorship without ego, security without paranoia, leadership without self-worship. And if we brush up against politics, don't panic. We're staying on the sidewalk. We're not crossing into the traffic of tribal screaming. That's not what this is. This podcast is the embodiment of the word cross-functional. So, if you've got your buzzword bingo card in front of you, go ahead and mark cross-functional. I'll try to limit the use of buzzwords and cliches in the future, but no promises. Now, let's talk about one of the great divides lighting up social media these days, the generational divide. It's the kind of topic that drives clicks, views, likes, and shares. But it also pulls us apart, fracturing us into tribalism, not standing for a community, but standing against another. And while we're on the subject of social media, hit like and subscribe. Tell your pals down at the malt shop about the show. If you're Gen X, do whatever, rub some dirt on it, walk it off. I've had conversations with 20-year-olds who think anyone over 40 invented or built nothing. And I've worked with boomers who feel that Slack, that great form of communication that we use on tech projects, is a sin. But here's what I've really learned. Every generation thinks they are the most important in the history of everything. And individuals think they are the main character. And for a time, they're right. In our own stories, we are the hero. But in the big picture, we're all part of a long, messy, brilliant, broken, and beautiful system. We are the books that make a library matter. were the files that make the network worthwhile. And sometimes, when we're at our best, what we build lasts far longer than we can ever perceive. On that note, let's take a fresh look at the space shuttle chariot analogy for a minute. Its solid rocket boosters had to be transported by train. That train, with the boosters, had to fit through tunnels. Those tunnels were built around the size of train cars. Train car size is limited by the width of train tracks. The width of train tracks was based on the width of horse-drawn wagons. The width of wagon wheels is determined by the ruts in the roads all over Europe. Those ruts were made in large part by Roman carts and chariots, and Roman chariots themselves were based on an earlier design by the Egyptians. The distance between those wheels was based on what pulled them. They were drawn by two horses, side by side, with just enough space between them. Legacy is weird like that. There's no way Roman or even earlier Egyptian chariot makers could have conceived that their designs would play a part in humans going into space. I know it's an old analogy, but it illustrates beautifully how generations, not just of technology, but of people, are all part of one longer story. So as we can see, two horses' butts from ancient chariots, Roman and Egyptian, help determine the dimensions of space-age rockets. Legacy, as I said, is weird like that. We need each other, and the future needs all of us. We need builders, breakers, mentors, challengers, and yes, even the occasional intern who rolls their eyes when we say LAN party to the older generations. We need the humility to accept that the next generation must improve what we gave them. Not because we didn't do a good job, but because nothing and no one is perfect, and that leaves room for improvement. Don't fight those improvements. Bring your experience to help guide them, so they can deliver faster, smarter, and with fewer scars, or at least different ones. Be a part of the solution. Isn't just a platitude if you put it into action. And to the younger generations, have the grace to recognize that the folks before you really were doing the best they could with the tools, data, and perspective they had, because human history is linear. At least until we get time machines. Don't dismiss the old ones because, as the commercial says, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Your perspective is necessary, but their failures and their wins can accelerate your path, improve your outcomes, and help you avoid rebuilding broken wheels. Real resilience isn't about being right. It's about building something that lasts, even when you're gone. That is legacy. And it might just be shaped by two ancient horses' butts. From ancient horses' butts to modern technology, legacy is everywhere. And in the episodes ahead, we're going to explore even more unexpected connections. Here's what's coming in future episodes: a medieval city that teaches modern security, cybersecurity metaphors and analogies that actually land, infrastructure stories from theme parks and war zones, leadership lessons I learned the hard way, and probably more sarcasm than is strictly necessary. You'll hear about honeypots and dungeons, about the time we built a wireless bridge using discarded paint buckets, wood scraps, a few loose stones from the parking lot, and a lot of hope. And about how building generational teams that listen, learn, respect, grow, and build might just be our last great hope to fix what's broken. These teams, across age, background, skill set, and perspective, are humanity's superpower. With our powers combined, the future is possible. Hit like and subscribe. Share this with your malt shop pals, someone you mentor, or someone who mentors you. Or do whatever. Thanks for listening to The Digital Keep, a DataVakt podcast. And until the next time, watch the walls, mind the gate, build your legacy.